Hello, wildlings. I'm your Creepsmith, and you found my Fear Forge. Lucky you. Hey, wildlings. Something we all share are memories of school. Some pleasant, some embarrassing, some downright tragic. But for some people, they're the ones they wish to forget. If only they could. Tonight's tale, part 1 of To My Old 4th Grade Classmates in Miss Barther's Biology Class. It's Coming For Me. Please Help. By BadFakeSmiles. This is an open letter addressed to the 27 other students who endured the strange and traumatizing events that happened during our 4th grade biology class. I know that we all chose to keep silent and buried the memories. Some of you probably went to a therapist. Some might even have moved on, but I know the majority of you are still haunted by the past, like me. However, if you're reading this and you're not a part of said class, please go ahead and tag along with the story, because at this point, I desperately need all the help I can get. My name is Nathan Gann, but people called me Nats. August was the first person to call me that nickname ever since a cloud of gnats chased me back into kindergarten after recess. Same with the constant shoving and tripping. He never stopped teasing me about it, so it grew on me, and everyone else called me Nats by default. As you can see, we lived a pretty typical elementary school life back in Oaks, but that's until 4th grade came along, and a new biology teacher was added to the faculty. Veronica Schwartz Barther was her name. She had big, sunken eyes to match her tall and thin frame. Her hair was dry and frizzy, but she always tied it into a bun. She always wore long, dark, purple dresses matched with red heels. It made her stand out from the pink and orange blouses worn by the other teachers. Her thin lips made it possible for her to smile with just her teeth and gums, but her voice was surprisingly soft and gentle. It always sounded like a mother telling her child that it'll be all right. Ironically enough, she would always call our class her angels, or the perfect set of children that she always wished she had. But of course, that was all just a front. We were all ass-kissers, and she never found out, or maybe we were just too scared. She was very fond of us. Some might even say obsessed. No, she was obsessed. I tried my best to recall everything that happened, but I can only remember some stories to refresh your memories. Only the stories that my gut can handle. I remember August Bowers and the soggy towels. When she introduced the topic of microorganisms in class, she taught us that body odor was caused by bacteria, and that's why we all stank after physical ed. After that lesson, she instructed us to wear small towels under our shirts to catch the sweat. She wanted to bring those towels home so that she could take a snapshot of the bacteria and show it to our class. She collected our soggy towels for the whole year, but she never gave us any snapshot. One time, us boys were overstaying inside the locker room, only about 5 to 10 minutes after the bell. We were talking, laughing, playing, teasing. Well, most of the teasing was directed at me, but everyone was enjoying ourselves when the doors suddenly opened and she walked into the room. The cheerful noise stopped and a creeping silence replaced it. She just stood there, staring at us for a good minute. Then she directed her eyes to a shirtless August, and the most disgusting smile spread across her face. "You have a nice build, nice height. Your parents must be proud they produced you." She crouched to meet August's eyes. "If only I could bear a child like you. Well, like all of you." August didn't say a word, but we could see him trembling in fear. "I assume that the towels are done?" She pulled a plastic bag from her pocket, and we placed our towels into it one by one. We all left without saying a word, but she stayed inside the locker room for quite an amount of time. If you think that was weird, I also remember Emily Briggs and the cut, cut, cut song. The teacher would have us prick our fingers and put a drop of blood on a slide to observe it under a microscope. I'd guess that you'd think this is a pretty normal thing for a biology class, but the thing is, she made us do it once a month for the entire school year. I could never forget what happened to Emily Briggs that first time. See, we were instructed to do it ourselves. She was scared of pricking her finger. When Mrs. Barther saw this, she approached Emily. "What's wrong, my angel?" she softly asked, and we stared at the both of them. "I don't want to prick my finger." "But it's for the class." "Mrs. Barther, I'm scared." "Do you want me to do it for you?" Miss Barther took the needle. No, I'm scared it's gonna hurt," Emily sobbed. We all expected Mrs. Barther to frown, and we thought we might finally see the day when she would get mad, but instead, her toothy smile grew that much wider. "Do you want me to cut them instead?" Miss Barther's words echoed within the four corners of the room. Emily stopped crying out of sheer shock. All of us were confused with our mouths half open. Mrs. Barther went back to her desk and grabbed a pair of scissors. She approached Emily again, snipping the scissors as she took each step, swaying her head from left to right while rhythmically singing the word cut. Cut, 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 as she approached Emily's desk. Our hearts dropped at each snip of the large pair of scissors. With a shaking hand, Emily took the needle and pricked her own finger. Snot and tears mixed with her awful crying, making gross bubbles from her mouth and nose, but Mrs. Barther dropped the scissors and patted her head, telling her how she was a good girl while everything was dripping off of Emily's face. After every class, when our little microscope session was done and we'd all left, she would twirl around the classroom, grab our slides, and collect them in an icebox. She looked like a fairy, snagging teeth from our pillows. I watched silently from the corner of the door and followed her outside the building. She vanished deep inside the woods, across the parking lot behind our school, and until this day, I have no idea what she was doing with those bloodied slides. Now, most of the horrifying experiences that we had were all shared, where some of us, if not all of us, witnessed them together. But the one that really haunts me until this day is something that I alone had to go through. I remember the cups. At the start of every class, she would lead all of us outside and have us form a line. We would go to the comfort rooms as a class, and she would make us go by batches of 10, 5 boys and 5 girls, to their respective rooms. She told us that it was to minimize instances of us asking to go out and pee during lectures. What was odd was that she instructed us never to flush the toilet after we peed. She would go inside after each batch was done and take about 10 minutes and then flush it herself. It was pretty odd, but we never questioned it since it was the least strange thing that she had done to that point. One day, while we were taking our exam, I excused myself to go to the bathroom. It was the quarterly exam, so the school corridors were mostly empty. While I was walking in the hallway, I heard a strange clacking noise behind me, and when I looked back, no one was there. I continued walking and heard it again, like someone was following me. When I looked back, no one was there. Except this time, I saw it. Hiding behind a locker door was a purple dress. My stomach churned and my palms started to sweat, and I slowly walked forward, but with my head still turned, keeping a close eye on the dress. That's when she peeked half her head out, eerily, and those big sunken eyes stared directly at me. I immediately looked away and started to walk faster. The clacking noise started to get faster as well, and when I looked back, she was in the middle of the hallway covering her face, but even so, her sharp shoulders revealed her chuckling behind her bony fingers. I started to run. When I reached the bathroom, I hid inside one of the cubicles. My heart was pounding and my blood was pumping inside my ears. While catching my breath, I noticed that the toilet's tank was slightly open. I don't know what possessed me to do it, but there was a nagging voice inside my head that something was strange, but something inside my head told me that something was odd, that it takes her 10 minutes to flush 5 toilets. So I opened the tank. There were cups. Lots of cups. 7 to 10 of them, all filled with amber liquid. Piss. The most terrifying thing is that it was ours. Each cup was labeled with names. August, Dominic, Howard, Lance, Nathan. I tried my best to put the lid back on with trembling hands when suddenly the comfort room door creaked. It was slow and loud. I tried to stop my breathing, praying that she wouldn't notice me inside the stall, and I heard her take careful steps, sneaking. The sound of her heels clapped against the tiles. She got closer and closer until I heard her stop in front of the cubicle I was in. There was nothing but silence for the next 5 minutes. That's when I foolishly got on all fours and took a peek outside the cubicle. She wasn't there. No heels outside my cubicle. I sighed in relief, when suddenly a red shoe dropped from the sky. I slowly looked up, and there she was, hanging on the cubicle door, looking down at me. "Are you done, Than?" she asked. I was so shocked that I flinched and slipped, almost hit my head on the edge of the toilet. She got down and opened the door. When I was up and standing, she crouched and got closer to my ear. "You need to get back to class," she whispered, caressing my hair. I ran as fast as I could out of that comfort room. A stream of warm liquid dripped down my left leg as I ran back to the classroom. I would never forget that incident, and I still have nightmares about it. What would keep me up at night, however, is that when I got home, I felt a burning sensation on the back of my neck. When I took a closer look, there was a scratch mark deep enough to cause a small wound, like she'd been trying to scrape my skin. I'm sure that every one of us felt that Miss Barther was somewhat odd, but I'm here to confirm to you that that bitch was batshit crazy. The soggy towels, the slides, the cups, they were all just things to think about, things that remained a mystery to us. But I wish that that was how they had stayed. I wish I didn't have to find out any of what I have found out. I wish that I didn't have to know the truth. It's been 14 years since the events inside our biology classroom. I've already graduated college, and I'm trying my shot as a digital designer. I know that most of you tried to forget it. Some of you might even have moved on. But for me, it all came crawling back from the grave. And now that thing is coming for me. This part of it started last week when I got a random call. It was a nurse asking if my name was Nathan. Gann, and if I could remember my former biology teacher. I naively answered yes, and I was put on hold. When the music stopped, that same voice, that same sick, soft voice greeted my ears again. Than? I froze. I couldn't see it, but I knew. I fucking knew that she was wearing that sick smile. Well, that's the funny thing about the past, wildlings. We can try to forget it, to deal with it, to bury it or conceal it. But the truth will out, and the past will catch up to you. And it is a motherfucker. Next time, part 2. That'll be the 27th if you're listening when this is released. Stay scary, wildlings, and make the most of your nights.